Welcome to Caroline's Library, where we dive into the world of manga, anime, and more. And as I'm recording this, the World Cup is in full swing, which means it's the perfect time to talk about Blue Lock. So let's get into it with a quick story setup. The story opens up with a Japan Football Union meeting where they're debating the best path forward for the Japanese national team. Will they ever have what it takes to win the World Cup? Well, Henri certainly thinks so, and she's devised a plan to make that dream a reality, starting with hiring a new coach, Jinpachi Ego. With that, we transition to follow a high schooler, Yoichi Asagi, as he loses his high school match to go to the nationals. Thinking he's resigned to forever being a mediocre soccer player, he unexpectedly gets an invitation from the Japan Football Union to join a special player training. But what exactly is this training? Well, it's Jinpachi Ego's first step towards a Japanese World Cup win, where he's gathered 300 of the best Japanese strikers under 18 to go through a cutthroat program to see who has what it takes to be Japan's best striker, and eventually, the player who will lead Japan to a World Cup victory. So, who has what it takes to survive this program and come out on top? Now that the scene is set, let's talk about what makes this series a must-read, starting with the characters. Our MC, Asagi, is an underdog amongst underdogs. Of the 300 strikers, he's one of the lowest ranked against the competition, but he is determined and willing to learn and grow, so he takes every opportunity to better himself and expand his skill set. And with his personality, he has an incredibly strong and satisfying character arc of personal growth, where he learns what his secret weapon is and what makes him a valuable player on the field. And he's not the only one with a nice character arc. Blue Lock is full of unique and quirky characters that each have their own struggles and challenges to overcome, whether if it's a sibling rivalry, old injury, or close-minded personality. Fairly early in the series, Shiguri and Baru in particular have well-crafted personal growth journeys that really stood out as my personal favorites. And of course, guiding each of them to reach new heights is Ego, their eccentric coach. All things considered, Ego may just be one of my favorite characters because of his interactions with the players and his creatively crafted trials. And speaking of Ego's trials, let's get into the story itself. First and foremost, this is a battle sports shonen manga that gives off Hunger Games and Squid Game vibes. You don't pass the trial, you're out. Obviously, the characters don't die in this story, but they're kicked out of the competition and will never be able to represent Japan on the national stage. So, with that intense, high-stakes situation in mind, these players are battling it out for the top spot. They are constantly challenged to do more and be better versions of themselves. And if they fall behind, they won't last long. So, personal growth character arcs are sort of the name of the game with this story, as each character works to learn what their secret weapon is and how to optimize it. With this cutthroat approach of discovering the best Japanese striker, it makes it a little difficult to fully connect to the characters because you don't know when they'll be kicked out. Will your favorite make it to the next trial? Who knows? And as the story progresses, we primarily follow our MC, so if you're interested in a character that is not with Asagi at that moment, you'll have to wait to see if there are more chapters that feature your preferred characters. But then again, we are also introduced to a variety of new characters with each story arc, so you may discover new favorites throughout the series. And going back to that intense focus on personal growth, the story can get a bit repetitive and the pacing suffers here and there. It's sort of a rinse and repeat issue where the character struggles, discovers a new skill set, puts that skill set to use, and repeats the process in the next trial. And while that can be inspirational because they're constantly trying to be the best versions of themselves, it can be a bit repetitive in how that development is achieved. But repetitive issues aside, you can also expect some well-executed plot twists throughout the story that add to the drama. And as the trials weed out the weaker players, the story just gets more and more emotional and epic as we're introduced to the worldwide competition that they'll eventually have to face. Now, transitioning to the anime adaptation, with this series, you can also enjoy a pretty good anime. The animation quality is a little sus at times, and it glosses over parts of the story that are more detailed in the manga, but then again, that can also help with pacing, so I recommend the anime as well as the manga. So, wrapping this up, Blue Lock is an intense, epic story of personal growth and survival. The characters are all unique with interesting backstories and challenges, and as the story progresses, the emotions and insanity keep escalating. And if this series has been on your TBR, or if you're wondering when it's a good time to start reading this series, the time is now. Pick it up while you can watch Japan compete in the 2026 World Cup. Thanks for popping on to watch this review. If you've already checked out this series, let me know what you think in the comments, and until next time, happy reading.